Hi everyone. Today let us see the concentration in the dilution of the urine. Synopsis, recap of the previous class, countercurrent mechanism, mechanism of dilution, mechanism of concentration, and the factors affecting the concentration and the applied aspects. Let us revise the countercurrent mechanism in the loop of Henle in the vasa recta. The filtrate enters a descending limb from the proximal tubule, which has the isoosmotic fluid. As it moves towards the descending limb, more water moves out of the descending limb, and the solution becomes more concentrated as it loses more water. As the fluid reaches the loop of Henle, it has the highest osmolarity of 1200 milliosmol. As the solution moves towards the ascending limb, from the ascending limb more solutes moves out of it through sodium potassium chloride cotransport, and as the solution leaves the ascending limb it will have the osmolality of only 1000 milliosmol. So by this the hyperosmolarity in the interstitium is produced, and then vasa recta allows for return of both water and the solute to circulation without disrupting the interstitial osmotic gradient. Solute absorption dominates in the descending limb of the vasa recta. So this is how the blood flows in. So this is the descending limb of the vasa recta, and this is the ascending limb of the vasa recta. So in the descending limb, solute is more absorbed and water leaves. In the ascending limb, water absorption dominates. So more water gets absorbed here. So solutes and the water carried out of the medulla. This is the difference between the two countercurrent mechanisms. Countercurrent multiplier happens in the loop of Henle, and the countercurrent exchanger happens in the vasa recta. Countercurrent multiplier produces the medullary hyperosmolarity, and it is by the active transport. Countercurrent exchanger maintains the medullary hyperosmolarity by passive transport. Diluted urine. Let us see how the diluted urine is formed. So it is formed when there is very low antidiuretic hormone or there is no antidiuretic hormone secretion, which is called as diabetes insipidus, or when there is a receptor defect, antidiuretic hormone receptor defect in the nephron, or even when there is excessive fluid intake. So the urine can be hypoosmotic, and it will have only as low as 30 milliosmol per kilogram diluted, and they can excrete around 20 liters per day. So fluid coming from the proximal convoluted tubule is isoosmotic due to the permeability of sodium and water is similar, so it won't affect the osmolarity. So it enters the loop of Henle as isoosmotic. in the thin descending limb which is permeable to water. So water moves to the interstitium to be equal to the medullary concentration. Now the solute reaches the thin ascending limb which is permeable to sodium. After they reach the thick ascending limb which is permeable to the solute and impermeable to the water, the filtrate is diluted and hypoosmotic as low as 100 to 150 milliosmol per kilogram. Now, as the fluid moves towards the collecting duct, so collecting duct will take more solute, only sodium chloride, as there is no antidiuretic hormone. The reabsorption of water and urea will not occur here. So the final osmolarity will be very low as 50 milliosmol per kilogram. Urinary dilution mechanism. So proximal convoluted tubule is permeable to both water and sodium chloride as the iso-osmolarity is maintained. As it reaches the thin descending limb, it is permeable only to water, so it becomes hyperosmotic. As it crosses the ascending limb, which is permeable only to the sodium chloride, it is again hypoosmotic. So as it reaches the collecting duct, which is mainly controlled by the antidiuretic hormone, so the reabsorption of water and the urea will not occur, and we get only the diluted urine. So water reabsorption 65% happens in the proximal convoluted tubule and 20 to 25% happens in the descending limb, and nothing happens in the ascending limb but can happen if there is antidiuretic hormone. So reabsorption of water and sodium chloride happens in the proximal convoluted tubule. So water reabsorption in the descending limb happens by osmosis. So thin ascending limb, the sodium chloride absorption happens by passive transport. In the thick ascending limb, the sodium chloride transport happens by active transport. Whereas the collecting ducts, the reabsorption of sodium chloride happens. Now let us see the concentrated urine. So the concentrated urine is formed in case of water deprivation, in case of dehydration, like vomiting, diarrhea, and when there is blood loss, and also in case of syndrome of inappropriate secretion of antidiuretic hormone, when there is excessive secretion of antidiuretic hormone. So the urine excreted will be hyperosmotic, 1200 milliosmol per kilogram. So the urea concentration will be more and the excretion will be only 0.5 liters per day. So the isoosmotic fluid enters the proximal convoluted tubule and the thin descending limb moves the water out of it, and the ascending limb moves the solute out of it. Thick ascending limb moves more solute into the interstitium, and the fluid reaching the collecting duct is hypoosmotic. So here the antidiuretic hormone starts working and absorbs more water, so the concentration of the urine increases. The osmolarity in the interstitium is high because the change of the osmolarity of the whole body, which is due to the antidiuretic hormone. When the antidiuretic hormone levels goes high, the urea level in the medullary collecting duct and the interstitium they equilibrate. Most of the water reabsorbed is in the presence of antidiuretic hormone is in the cortical collecting duct. So the osmolarity of the medullary tissue is high up to 1200 milliosmol per kilogram. So here early collecting duct, that is cortical collecting duct, is impermeable to urea. So antidiuretic hormone allows the passive absorption of water. So I can see the difference between the presence of antidiuretic hormone, which makes the dilution or the concentration of the urine. So if there is no antidiuretic hormone, so we will get large diluted urine. When there is presence of antidiuretic hormone and there is increased secretion of antidiuretic hormone, we will get very little concentrated urine. Factors affecting the urine concentration. So antidiuretic hormone. So antidiuretic hormone causes an increase in the permeability of distal collecting duct for water, and it also increases the permeability of the medullary collecting duct to urea. The length of the loop of Henle matters. So the longer the loop of Henle, the greater the countercurrent multiplier works, as it can concentrate the urine more. So in the newborns, in the infants, the loop of Henle is shorter. Delivery of salt to the ascending loop of Henle. So due to a decrease in the glomerular filtration rate, the filter load of solute is decreased. Decrease in the delivery of salt to the ascending limb, resulting in decreased reabsorption of water from the ascending limb. So decreased addition of salt to the medullary interstitial fluid, and which leads to decreased medullary longitudinal osmotic gradient and decreased urine concentration. So the delivery of the solute to the ascending limb is also important. And reabsorption of the solute in the ascending limb and delivery of fluid to the medullary collecting duct and medullary blood flow. So slower the blood flow, there will be more absorption, and which increases the concentration of the medulla, interstitial medulla. And urea also plays an important role. We'll see how they are. So now let us see how the antidiuretic hormone, which is also called as vasopressin, is formed. So vasopressin binds to the receptor, to the vasopressin receptor, and it activates the cyclic AMP and cells insist aquaporin, which is in water channel. Aquaporin water pours into the apical membrane. So this water channel helps to absorb water by the process of osmosis. Let us see how the antidiuretic hormone acts on the kidney. So antidiuretic hormone, they increase the permeability of late distal tubule and the collecting tubule to water. It also increases the permeability of medullary portion of the collecting duct to urea by stimulating the urea transporter. It also acts on the thick ascending limb by stimulating the reabsorption of sodium chloride by sodium potassium chloride cotransporter. And in the distal tubule, so it stimulates the epithelial sodium channel and also the sodium chloride transporter. So this is the difference between the presence and absence of the antidiuretic hormone. See the effect of the vasopressin. So when there is the presence of the antidiuretic hormone, more solutes gets out of the thick ascending limb, and it also acts on the distal tubule. So more water and solute moves out of it, and it acts on the medullary collecting duct by which water and urea is reabsorbed. So in its absence, so there will not be much movement of urea and water, though the solutes moves out through the active transport. The urea and the water movement will not occur. Urea transport. So urea is a metabolic end product of the protein which contributes around 40 to 50% of the osmolarity, which is 500 to 600 milliosmol. So in the inner medullary collecting duct, so there happen passive reabsorption, so which is facilitated by the urea transporters. So urea excretion determined by two factors. One is the concentration of urea in the plasma and the glomerular filtration rate. So in the proximal tubule, so 50% of the urea gets reabsorbed and only 50% is remaining. In the thin descending limb and the thin ascending limb, passive secretion of urea happens by urea transporter A2. In the thick ascending limb, distal tubule and the collecting tubule, so that is early collecting tubule, so they are impermeable to the urea. You can see which is highlighted with a thick outline. So here in the inner medullary collecting duct, so urea is absorbed in the presence of antidiuretic hormone by the urea transporters A1 and A3. So the outer portion of inner medulla where occurs active reabsorption of urea through sodium urea cotransporter. Coming to the applied aspects, disorders of urinary concentrating ability. So inappropriate secretion of antidiuretic hormone. So when there is decreased secretion or no secretion, it is called as central diabetes insipidus. And when there is increased antidiuretic hormone secretion, it is called as syndrome of inappropriate secretion of antidiuretic hormone. When there is impairment of countercurrent mechanism, so the flow rate will be more, which is called as osmotic diuresis. Inability of the tubules to respond to antidiuretic hormone, which is called as nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, where there is an receptor defect. So diabetes insipidus, so it is the inability to produce or release the antidiuretic hormone. So the symptoms will be polyuria and polydipsia, and they will have low specific gravity and diluted urine. Nephrogenic diabetic insipidus is the receptor defect. It is the inability of the kidney to respond to the antidiuretic hormone. And diabetes mellitus, when there is more glucose present in the urine. We will see that. Water diuresis, so it occurs due to the absence or reduced secretion of the antidiuretic hormone. So this condition can occur in case of diabetes insipidus or excessive fluid intake. So excessive fluid intake, so that causes amount of water reabsorption in the proximal convoluted tubule is normal. As it decreases the plasma osmolality, so anti-diuretic hormone secretion also decreases. So that decrease in the reabsorption of water, which causes the hypoosmolar urine. Osmotic diuresis. So it occurs due to the large amount of unabsorbed solute, which exerts osmotic effect. So that can be due to the increased filtered load of sodium, glucose in case of diabetes mellitus, and the urea. And when these solutes exceed the tubular maximum, so this can happen even in case of the excessive sodium chloride infusion. So unabsorbed solutes reaches the renal tubules, so that creates an osmotic effect. So that holds more water in the tubules, so that limits the concentration gradient against which sodium can be pumped out. Amount of water reabsorption in proximal convoluted tubule is decreased. So that increases the urine volume and excretion of sodium and other solutes. So mannitol and other related polysaccharides, they can be filtered, but they will not be reabsorbed. So SIADH, syndrome of inappropriate secretion of antidiuretic hormone. So when there is increase in the antidiuretic hormone, excessive hormone, so the reabsorption of water will be more, and that increases the ECF volume, which decreases the aldosterone secretion, and that causes loss of salt in the urine. So that causes a hyperosmotic urine or concentrated urine. So that causes the dilutional hyponatremia. So to treat the condition, demclocycline is used, so which decreases the renal response to the antidiuretic hormone. Coming to the diuretics, there are different types of diuretics. So osmotic diuretics, mainly they act on the proximal tubule. They inhibit the water and the solute reabsorption by increasing the osmolarity of the tubular fluid. Loop diuretics, they act on the ascending thick limb. So they inhibit the sodium potassium chloride cotransport. Thiazide diuretics, they act on the early distal tubules on the sodium chloride cotransporter. They inhibit it. So carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, they inhibit the hydrogen and carbonate, they inhibit the hydrogen secretion and bicarbonate reabsorption, which reduces the sodium reabsorption. Aldosterone antagonists, so they act on the collecting ducts by inhibiting the action of aldosterone. So that decreases the sodium reabsorption and the potassium secretion. Sodium channel blockers, which acts on the collecting ducts, so that blocks the entry of the sodium into the sodium channels. So that decreases the sodium reabsorption and also the potassium secretion. So these are the different areas where the diuretics act. So acetazolamide, carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, so it acts on the proximal convoluted tubule, and osmotic agent like mannitol also acts on the proximal convoluted tubule, and loop diuretics like furosemide, it acts on the thick ascending limb. Thiazide acts on the distal tubule. Aldosterone antagonists mainly act on the collecting duct, and ADH antidiuretic hormone antagonists, they act on the medullary collecting duct. You can see the loop diuretics acting on the thick ascending limb by inhibiting the sodium, potassium, and chloride cotransporter. So more solute will be excreted in the urine, along with it more water will get out of it. Thiazide diuretics acts on the sodium chloride channel, so the reabsorption of sodium chloride is interrupted. So we have come to the end of the session. Remember that the descending limb is a concentrating segment of the nephron, whereas the ascending limb is the diluting segment of the nephron. The amount of water reabsorbed in the collecting duct mainly depends on the level of the antidiuretic hormone. So books to read by Professor G.K. Pal, by Professor Indu Kurana, by Professor Guyton and Hall, and by Professor William Ganong. Thank you.